Life isn't always fair. The rules specifically applicable to the NBA. Throughout the long and momentous history of the league, a number of players, despite winning MVPs, named All-Star, and making historical records, fell short of winning NBA championships. Join us today as we look at 9 NBA players without a championship ring. Let's start with a player fans tend to take for granted these days. It could be due to his doubtful defensive strategies or his dismal shooting statistics, but Russell Westbrook is not in everyone's good books. But make no mistake, Westbrook's one of the best NBA players of all time. A future Hall of Famer with a resume that's 95% of basketball players in history could only hope for. One of just 2 players to have ever compiled a 23-7-8 stat line throughout their career, Westbrook has averaged 23.2 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 8.5 assists per game. A former league MVP, 9-time All-Star, and 2-time All-Star Game MVP, Westbrook has pretty much achieved everything an NBA player could hope to do, except for winning a championship. In his 4th season, the absurdly explosive Westbrook did come awfully close on 2 separate occasions when he, Durant, and Harden helped lead the Thunder to the finals, where they lost 4-1 to the Heat, and then in 2015 through 16, which was Durant's final season in Oklahoma City, when the Thunder held a 3-1 series lead over championship favorites Golden State. Next up, Elgin Baylor has more records than most players out there today. What can we say? Elgin Baylor's on 2 lists, great players without a ring and the top 10 NBA players ever. He's obliterated defenders in 13 outstanding NBA seasons, much like Michael Jordan would eventually go on to do. He was the NBA's elite's first marvel, to be honest. He played above the rim at a period when players avoided it. If you were to ask Julius Erving who he looked up to as a child, he would undoubtedly mention a certain number 22. The man could essentially do anything. That is, except receiving a league MVP, since his brilliance coincided with that of Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. At 6 feet and 5 inches tall, he averaged 19.8 rebounds per game in his 3rd season. He demonstrated that being effective required a broad skill set. Baylor was undoubtedly one of the best scorers and rebounders to play the game. He participated in 8 NBA Finals during his career. However, Baylor and his legendary Laker teams were largely prevented from winning it all by the Boston Celtics, dominated in the 1960s. Moving on, we have someone who will surpass the all-time greats in assists provided. Chris Paul, who is often referred to as the point god by NBA supporters, is without a doubt one of the best floor generals the game has ever seen. Paul now holds the 5th best overall record for assists, and he will likely soon surpass Mark Jackson and Steve Nash in that regard. Despite being a fantastic lead guard who has 4 times led the NBA in assists and 5 times in steals, Paul has never made it to the finals in his 16-year career. As a member of the Houston Rockets in 2017 through 18, he came the closest, reaching the Western Conference Finals and even helping his team take a 3-2 series lead over the dynastic Golden State Warriors of that era. However, an unfortunate hamstring injury would keep him out of the final 2 games of the series, which Houston would go on to lose by a combined score of 38 points. Paul is still among the best point guards in the game today, so there is still time for him to earn the sought-after ring or at least make it to the finals, but at 37, the clock is starting to run out on his chances. Now, when we discuss players without rings, James Harden is the first name that comes to mind. It's quite unfortunate that Harden has never experienced winning the NBA title. This is despite being voted the NBA's MVP in 2018, getting selected to 10 NBA All-Star teams, being named to 7 NBA All-Star teams, including 6 first teams, and having more than 101 games with 40 points. Harden came dangerously close to taking home a championship ring as a crucial reserve for the talented Oklahoma City Thunder squad in his 3rd season, but Thunder ultimately fell to LeBron James and the Miami Heat in a 5-game series after winning Game 1, as Paul's teammate on the Houston Rockets in 2017/18 came somewhat close to winning a championship once more, but another matchup with LeBron, who was then playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, loomed that year, and it's hard to really say who would have prevailed. Next, we have the master playmaker and a stubborn defender, John Stockton. Known as one of the best point guards ever, Stockton continues to hold the record for most assists and steals in NBA history. Stockton never had the opportunity to claim a championship ring despite the Utah Jazz making the playoffs for nearly 2 decades. His best chances came in the 1997 and 1998 seasons when Chicago and Utah met twice in the finals, but both times they lost. Stockton possesses a strong resume thanks to his 11 All-NBA selections, 10 All-Star selections, 5 All-Defensive selections, 9 times assists champions, and 2 times steal champs. If he had won a championship, one could argue that he would be considered the best point guard of all time. Additionally, Steve Nash's career highly resembled that of Steve Nash's. Both players were tiny in a league of giants, but they still dominate the NBA and had 2 of the best careers ever. Another unfortunate resemblance between the 2 illustrious point guards is that they both failed to win an NBA title. With 10,335 career assists, Nash ranks 3rd all-time in that category. During a 13-year span, he averaged 16.2 points per game, 9.7 assists, and 43.2% from beyond the arc. Nash had his defensive flaws, which he didn't make up for by trading steals as Stockton did. As a result, that damaged his Suns teams in the playoffs, and even after having Nash as their coach, they would never even make it to the finals. Now, Reggie Miller is the ideal illustration of a terrific player without a championship. Miller's well known for his three-point shooting, which earned him the nickname Nick Killer. Throughout his 18-year tenure with the Indiana Pacers, he was constantly the player to watch. He will be shown for the rest of his time as the clutch gene and crisp shooting abilities. Additionally, his rivalry and trash talking made the game more enjoyable for fans. Even Michael Jordan himself went head-to-head with him. Reggie Miller played for the Pacers for 18 seasons, but only once did he reach the finals in 2000, which ended in a 4-2 loss against the Lakers. Miller had a series average of 24.3 points and 3.7 assists. He was a 5-time All-Star and a 3-time NBA All-Star, and he had a successful career with Indiana. Reggie also holds the 4th best overall record for three-pointers. Following up, no one has carried a whole team on his shoulder like Karl Malone. When the Utah Jazz selected Karl Malone from a pitiful Louisiana Tech, they believed that they had selected a solid tenant. The team would receive all of that and more. The franchise's 18-year run of success was supported heavily by its starting power forward Karl Malone's broad shoulders. Many people believe the 14-time All-Star is the best player to ever play the position because of his efforts. In his position, he was immovable. On the floor, he was a force thanks to his propensity for tearing down rebounds and setting up his team for the break. Despite being 6'9" and almost 260 pounds, he ran the floor with grace and finished with ferocity. In 2004, when he joined the Los Angeles Lakers, Malone played his final season. The seasoned All-Star assisted the Lakers in their run to the NBA Finals. His best chance to win a championship ring would appear to be this, which would be his 3rd trip to the finals. Even though he didn't win a championship, Karl Malone is always brought up in discussions about great power forwards. He's also usually brought up in any discussion about all-time great athletes. Lastly, not many remember Chuck Barkley's iconic career. Barkley is now well known for his work as an analyst at TNT, which has come to overshadow his time as a player. The epitome of a great player who has never been crowned a championship ring, Charles was one of the NBA's top power players at his peak. His force and explosiveness were sufficient to topple lower position defenders who were taller than him. He won the MVP award and was named to the All-NBA, All-Star, and rebounding team 11 times during his 16-year career. During the 1992-93 season, Barkley was named MVP. That same year, he also led the Suns to the NBA Finals, where he played Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Phoenix eventually lost. Barkley had an outstanding performance in that series, averaging 27.3 points, 13.0 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. It was both his first and final finals participation. He later teamed up with Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexel for the Rockets in 1996 to form a formidable team. Despite having such a strong lineup, they were defeated by the Jazz in the Western Conference Finals. Which of these basketball players without a ring do you think is the GOAT? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and also subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next one.